Ramsey, no. All right, so we have the whole line set up with the dog and everything so you can see how it's gonna look. I think it turned out really well and pretty excited to give it a try sometime soon.
Hi guys, welcome back. So today we're going to show you guys how to make some Bikejoring lines. It's a really simple process and all you need is a few tools to do it with, and we'll show you what to do.
Yeah, so Pat doesn't know how to make it yet, so basically he's going to be learning right along with you guys, and I think it'll be a lot of fun. So here we go. Alright, so I'm going to go over some of the things you're going to need before you get started. So a lighter is what you're going to use to finish the ends of your rope. You'll need some Italian brass snaps. I have a couple different sizes. One is 3/8 and one is, I believe, 1/4 inch maybe. I'll have a link to all of the products and where to get them. These are specifically designed for cold weather and for pulling, so I wouldn't recommend getting them from a general hardware store. They are a little bit more expensive, but they're more guaranteed to last and not break on you. Then the next thing, we have some Fids. This is the tool that we're going to be using to actually run your rope through the rope, basically, and making your knots. These are just plastic ones. They were pretty cheap. For all three, it was like $2.50. There are nicer ones that are made of metal, and you can get a whole package, and they're like about $40. But these work just as fine as the other ones, so I was happy with that. So then we have our zip ties here, and this is going to be to connect the bungee into the rope. I'll show you that a little bit. This is just going to give the dogs a little bit of elasticity when they're pulling and not be so hard on their back.
And it's just basic zip ties, nothing special.
Electrical tape. That's going to be to cover the end of the zip ties so that you don't cut yourself or you don't cut the dogs when handling the rope. And then this particular rope here, you can see it's very dense, very thick. That's what we want. It's called hollow core rope. You can see the inside of it is hollow. This allows you to finish your ends really nicely.
We'll kind of show you that more later on in the video.
Yeah. But this is 9mm, and this is basically what the extent of your rope is going to be made out of. So basically, like the gangline part or the towing part, it's going to be thicker, so it's going to be stronger. And then this is 6mm hollow core rope, same exact thing. It's very dense as well. This is actually the line that you're going to attach your dogs to, so we'll show you that. And then I have some bungee here. This, I believe, is 8mm, so this is going to go inside of this hollow core rope. And just to show you, this rope is specifically for dogs, for the Bikejoring or even the sled pulling. It's very thick and dense. If you were to get hollow core rope at a local hardware store or Walmart or whatever, it's not going to be as dense. I'll show you an example of that. So this is supposedly 9mm at the hardware store. You can see it's not nearly as thick. So again, you're probably not going to want to use this because it's not going to last very long.
And also you can kind of tell, I don't know if you can see it or not, but it's not as tight. This one is knit pretty tight and this one's more loose.
Right. Alright, so basically this is a very elementary design of what we're doing here. So we have the bike here on this side, and then the light green rope is going to be this here, which should be approximately 3 feet. And then your darker green lines are going to be here. These are what attach to your dog. And then we have a neckline up here that keeps the two dogs together, and that's going to be made with the green line as well.
Which green? The
dark green line.
Dark green. Okay.
All right. So this part we're going to start with first is this lime green part that's 3 feet. All right. So we're going to mark out 3 feet with our measuring tape here. When you're ordering your line, you want to make sure you order plenty of excess, because right now, even though we're measuring from tip to tip here, we're not cutting the rope because we have to account for loops that are going to be made. So I just have this here kind of as an idea for once we get our first loop made. So he's going to take this end here and he's going to make a loop with it. So for this particular piece, we're going to use our big fid here because you can see this is going to fit through here to make our loops. So just have you light the end just to make it so it's not frayed. So make sure you show them. You don't need to do a whole lot because it'll get really hard. There you go, and then kind of squish it together. Good.
Be careful because it will be hot.
Yeah.
Just don't want to burn yourself.
All right. So you're going to fit that into the fid here.
Which actually really isn't too hard to do. Sticks in right to about here.
All right. And you're going to approximately measure out how big the loop should be. Now, you think it's about here inside?
Yeah.
Okay. So probably want to make your first hole that goes through the line.
Do you want it through, like straight through?
Straight through the line, yep.
Okay. So this is my first time doing it, so I don't look like a pro.
Okay.
You don't pull it through all the way, right?
So you're going to pull it through a little bit and figure out how much you have here. So what you have is not actually a whole lot. So sometimes it takes a little time to figure out how much of a loop or how much you have to give yourself, because you're going to be going back through the line a few times here. So having a tail like this is not going to be quite sufficient enough, and even if you pull it through, it's going to make your hole smaller. So you probably are going to want to actually put it through there. Yeah, so you're going to take that out. There you go. Sometimes it takes a couple tries to figure out how big you want your loop to be. See?
Alright, so we're going to do this again, and we're going to make it a little bit bigger. So, we'll measure it out, and last time we were about here, so we're going to come in a little bit more.
Okay. And then, so now you've allotted yourself ample amount of space to make a decent loop, which is about here. And, you know, this can slide in and out pretty easily, so what you want to do is actually make it impossible for that to happen. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your fid again and run it through about here.
About
again,
an inch or two down from the one we just made.
In the opposite direction, so we'll show you that.
So as you can see, this one comes through this way. So we're going to go ahead and stick it through the opposite way, right?
Give yourself a little bit more room.
More room?
Yeah.
Right about here. Tighten it?
Yep. So now you have kind of this almost figure eight looking type thing, except for the bottom piece is smaller. So you're going to tighten it up, and then to basically seal this knot so that it cannot move anymore, you're going to take your fid, you might have to pull this out, and you're going to run it through both of these spots. So I usually feed it through first and then feed the end in.
Could you technically do this with it still attached?
Yeah, it's just sometimes easier to just feed it in first and then
rehook it back up.
Yeah.
Sorry about all that noise in the background. You can't see it right now, but that's Ramsey playing with the cat toy. She likes the cat toys. So tuck that back in. Okay, just kind of setting that back in there. And as you can see, the tip is through both of these. So we're gonna feed it through, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tighten it down.
Tighten it down. So now you've made this knot. Now, for demonstration purposes, you pull that end. That knot is not coming loose, as hard as we can pull.
It's tight.
So now, you have this beautiful tail that's hanging, and you know, your knot is finished, but it doesn't look professional. So now, you're gonna actually feed it through the inside of this rope to finish the ordeal. So, best way to do it, again, is to feed
Oh, you start with
your
just
fid first.
Where do you start it? Where do you punch it
Usually
through?
right through here.
So you got your knot. She's saying you do it just a little bit down from the edge of the bottom knot, so the lower one. And I'm sticking it inside of it. It's not coming through. It's just going into it. Kind of tuck it in there.
You might have to, like, what I usually do when I'm trying to is, yeah, bunch it up like that. And then before you get your end all the way through, stick your rope in.
Right.
So show them how you're sticking it back through there.
Just sticking it back in, so it's back in your...
And then you want to allot and make sure that you have all of this that goes in. So you might have to actually push this part of the rope up onto the fid a little bit more, like so, until you get your little nose out, and then you can feed all of that in. Okay?
So it's pushed through quite a bit, doubled up. And then what?
Pull it all the way through, all of that extra tail. Yep. And then pull your fid out. Yep. And now your line is completely concealed within it.
There's no tail, it's hidden inside of it now.
And that's a complete knot there. So basically now what we're going to do is, remember I said we were going to make this 3 feet? So we're
You
going to
start from the loop you just made. Let me see. Oops. Sorry. Yeah. Okay, so you hook that on 3 feet, or on the end, pull it out, find 3 feet.
And so your other loop should end about here. So we have all of this extra rope here, which I accounted for because I was hoping to be able to make 2 lines like this. We'll see how we do. And then we'll figure probably about here is where I'm going to cut it to allow for the other loop and going through. Let me just make sure. Maybe I'll give it a little extra about here. Okay. Same thing, you're going to heat the end of that just to make sure it doesn't fray.
Squish it together.
And you're basically going to do the same thing that you did for the other side and try to make the loops as identical as possible.
How big of a loop did you do?
You can measure it and see.
Oh, so it's literally this, huh? But then you have to account for the extra
Yeah.
stuff too.
We can always cut it. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to run all the way through.
So through here.
And the good thing with this kind of knot though, before you feed it all the way through, you can undo it and fix it if need be. I might have to do that on this one too, because we have to put the bungee in there.
Oh yeah, that's true. Okay.
So I would start it about up there.
So not as much, you think?
I mean, you can still push a lot in there because, I mean, it's not going to make a difference if you go over the amount that's going through because it's still pulling all the line through the rope.
Oh.
And then pull it tight.
Uh-oh. So one thing you don't want to have happen is you don't want to, when you're tucking that tail back into the rope itself, you don't want it to follow your fid when you poke your fid out of the end. You don't want it to follow it out because then you're going to end up with a little piece sticking out of the end.
Which
so
you can work it back through so it doesn't do that. But yeah, so now you have your 3-foot basically tug line here. That's what's going to be having the most pressure. And then we're going to put a bungee through it now. So we'll show you how to do that next. All right, so this is my first time putting a bungee through this line, but I think it's gonna be fine because it's pretty much like running the end of this through the line.
So we're gonna kind of wing it and we'll see how it goes.
All right, so you'll need your fit again. And about roughly where the end piece that we stuck through the rope
your
here
tail
finishes, you're gonna run your fid through. You're gonna get it, almost all the way through your rope. And then you'll feed your bungee cord into your fid again. And then you're just gonna kind of push up your rope here through the cord until about your other line starts to come through, which should be probably
real close to that.
About there. Here, move your hand so they can see, sorry. So yeah, I have it basically all the way through, and now I'm just going to push it through the rope. Kind of have to do a little bit of finagling with it to get it through. Yeah, good. Keep pushing that and I'll keep running this through. So now I have the end here with the bungee coming out. And you can take your fid out. And now you have your line here. So it's going to run through just like this. And you're going to want to have your rope kind of be bunched up like this. It normally would pull out, but you want the effect of when your dog pulls that the bungee is going to start to take effect. So now that we have our one end out, we're going to wrap it around our cord like so. And then this is where our zip ties are going to come in handy here. So as tight as we can make this, we're going to tighten that zip tie on this. We can't show them. Okay.
Just kind of around where it came, where the bungee popped out and then wrapped around again.
We're actually going to put more than one on here just for security purposes. You can also use like a C clamp, I guess is what they call it, or even like a bent nail. We're going to try the zip ties first and see how they work.
Let's go ahead and do another one. I'm going to come from the opposite way.
We're going to try and feed this other end back through the rope if we can.
Wait, opposite
So
way would be this way.
So you're going to want to bring this up just a tad.
You want it just right next to the other one?
Yep. And I think one more on the above that. So maybe 3 is what the special number we're going to use.
Ramsey's getting a little antsy. Oops.
And try to make these as tight as possible so it doesn't slip. Okay. And then we'll trim off the excess.
Just to kind of blunt the ends down a little bit.
Okay, so we're gonna leave this end the way it is currently, and we're gonna work on this end again a little bit. So we're gonna.
So like she was saying, you want to bunch it up a little bit, so that way
when it pulls, it actually pulls the cord. Because if you have it,
the same length as the tightened
when the dogs
rope.
pull, the bungee is essentially useless. So you want to bunch it up on the bungee on the rope quite a bit, and then essentially you're gonna do the same thing. So we'll wrap this around and then we'll cut. I'm gonna cut like here. And then we're going to zip tie this. Basically the same way we did it before. As tight as possible. One more. Okay, and then we're gonna snip the ends. And this end actually looks pretty decent. We're gonna leave this and we're gonna wrap it with electrical tape to, you know, cover these rough edges here. So I would start from about here.
Do you want to hold it up?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they do have colored electrical tape, so if you have a colored line that you can find electrical tape to match it, you can use it so it blends in a little bit nicer. You're gonna go all the way down to the end of that.
Yeah.
And you're probably gonna go all the way back up again too. Let's see, go just past the end.
Back up. Take your time with this. Make sure you get a nice tight wrap around the whole thing. You don't want it to be loose and then end up not protecting your rope and all the connections you made. There.
Alright, now you have this end here that is nice and soft. The dogs aren't going to get cut on it. You're not going to get cut on it if you have to handle the rope at all. It has nice elasticity to it. So now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to cut this end just a little bit, pretty up the end, and then we're going to do the same thing. Alright. So now we're gonna just stretch it along the measure here. Alright. And that's your three foot line. Of course when it's not taut, it's, you know, closer to 2.5, but essentially your dog's gonna be having that taut most of the time when they're pulling. Alright, so there's that step there. Now we're going to do the lines that go to the dog. Alright, so basically now we have our 6mm rope, and we're essentially going to do the same thing we did for the other line, except for we're not going to put a bungee in it. So we're going to make this line about 3.5 feet, just to make up for some of the lack of length in this one. So even though we made it 3 feet, the bungee makes it actually about 2.5 feet. And we do want to have our line be long enough that if maybe the dogs aren't pulling as hard, that they're still out far enough in front of the bike where they're not going to be in danger.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead, do maybe 3, you want to do 3.5 you said?
Yeah.
Okay, so right there. Well, I guess it doesn't really matter right now, you make one end, right?
Yep, you make your knot first and then we
Yeah.
measure.
That was a newbie mistake.
So now we're going to use a smaller fid, probably this one I'm imagining, because this one seems like it'd be too small.
Okay, so same thing. Okay, so yeah, again, you do the same thing that you were doing before. You make the loop, you have it come around, it passes through the rope again, your initial rope, then it loops back around and it comes through both ends, or both parts of this. Then you just feed it through, pull it tight, right?
That knot's not going to go anywhere. Now we're just going to feed the tail through the end of the rope to make it look finished.
And it is, especially when you start getting to these smaller ropes, I've noticed that it does get a little bit more difficult just trying to get everything through, just because you have less space to work with. But it works. You just have to, you know what? So here's one end. I got it, just need to dangle it a little bit.
Alright. 3.5.
Okay.
That's probably good right here. Let's make sure that this works. Yep.
Yep, there you go.
Alright, so this would be for if we were just going to take Shia by herself. I'll show you how to connect this line to this line. It's pretty easy. So
this would be, so this is the line that you're going to hold on to, or that you'll have hooked up to your bike.
yeah.
So this connects to your bike. This end will connect to the line, the littler line that you just made.
So the loops go inside each other, and then the one, usually the loop that goes around the outside of the other one is the one that the other part of the line is pulled through, and then it makes a knot like this, and they're gonna pull each other. So this would be for like a single dog. If you wanted another dog attached to this, basically you make just another line just like this,
Another one of these turquoise ones.
and it's gonna feed through this loop again here.
So that way you'd have two lines hooked up to here. You got line one, then you'd have like a line two, and then you could do, that would be your two dog.
And if you have two dogs on a team, there's a neckline that needs to attach the two dogs to each other. So we'll make that real quick. Oh, one thing I want to mention. So of course now you need a snap to put on to this end to hook to your dog. So we're going to use the larger Italian brass snap, and kind of the same way that you
Hook the two lines
hook
together.
the two lines together, you're going to kind of do the same thing for this. So you're going to feed it through the end of the snap, bring the snap around and through the line. There you have your snap. When we do it this way, for these particular snaps that are going to have a lot of pressure on them, so that if by chance the snap does break, you can change it out easily by just slipping it
On and off.
on and off, rather than making the loop specifically around the snap, which is what we'll actually do for the neckline, only because very rarely is there a lot of tension on the neckline. It just keeps the two dogs running close together instead of very far apart. So we will make our loop basically through this snap. So we'll show you that. The necklines are usually about a foot from end of snap to the other end of the snap.
You want necklines to be this color? Do you have a different color or
No, I don't.
no? Okay.
So we'll burn the end. This time we'll feed the snap through, and we'll make the loop just as we had done before. This time it's going to be a little bit smaller and tighter of a loop so that the snap doesn't move around a whole lot.
Say how big of a...
So you might want to just run it through like this first, because you're going at such a
small,
steep, angle, like so, and then make the rest of your knot. Give yourself a little more room. That way you're not having to fight going through.
Quite the chatty bunch today.
Yeah.
Harrison. Get a good grip. There it goes. It's a little long, but
Okay. And then we'll measure a foot here. So your snap should be there. So we'll cut about here.
this one?
Sure. Measures off.
A foot? That's all you need for the connector?
That's what it said on
That
the.
doesn't seem like much at all.
Well, think about your 2 dogs. It's pretty good.
All right, so there you have your neckline connector. This is going to be from one dog to the other, so it'll keep them together. So yeah, this is pretty much the whole setup that we have. You know, so you've got what connects to your bike, this yellow line over here, to the main line, which has that elastic that we added to it. Then you can go out to either of your dog lines, right?
Yeah,
Dog
your
line.
single dog line, or you can add a second one on there to have 2 dogs.
Which we're
right?
going to end up doing later. And then your connector, which will hook up from one dog to the other.
All right, so that's pretty much it. Didn't take much time at all. We were probably here for maybe about 40
15.
minutes.
Whoa, I was going to say like 15.
No,
Yeah, maybe like a half hour.
Probably a half hour, and we basically made a full line to take 1 dog out. I'll put a link in the description below for where you can get all these products. There's a couple of different websites, but I found the best prices to be at Mountain Ridge. I think it's like Sled Dogs or something like that. So I'll put a link down below so you guys can look at that as well. AMC, no. All right. So we have the whole line set up with the dog and everything, so you can see how it's gonna look. I think it turned out really well, and pretty excited to give it a try sometime soon. So you see Shia's got her harness on, it's hooked up nicely. If I want her to pull forward, come on, line up. You can see that there's elastic in the bungee. I think it's going to turn out really well. I'm very excited to try it. And you are too, aren't you?
Alright guys, so there you have it. If you liked what you saw, go ahead and give that a thumbs up or hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And we hope you guys have a good week, and we'll see you on our next video. Bye.
Bye.